It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
The book, it came out this week. It's called Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. And joining us on the phone, we have the author of that book, Judge Jeanine Pirro, is on the program. Judge Jeanine, it's a pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Well, thanks. It's good to be with you.
Yes, ma'am. I am so glad that you wrote this book. I've been doing some research about it. And I imagine because we live in these interesting times, it was a pleasure to write about President Donald Trump. Is he an interesting man to write about?
Well, he certainly is. He's a man I've known for many decades. And he was a man who was a successful businessman. He was successful on television, and the press, the media loved him. Cameos in movies. They couldn't stop writing about him. And then he announced he was running for president. He became the devil incarnate. The left, from the time he took office, has been having a collective breakdown. They blew their collective gasket, and now they've been trying to take him out of office. And because I've been a prosecutor, a judge, and a DA for 30 years, I know the crime business. I've been in it a long time, and I know a con when I see it. And what they did with this president and continue to do was they set up a fake investigation with a make-believe dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton, the opposing political party, started an investigation, and this president for 19 months has been under an investigation that has shown nothing connected to him, and, they will not stop. It is part of the lying, speaking, liberal left that just won't quit. And that's why I wrote the book. I thought it was important, and I outlined all of this in the book.
I understand that, again, your book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, you do discuss Peter Strzok. But interesting, you wrote about him before his recent testimony before Congress. So I'm just curious, did his testimony surprise you, or did you pretty much have him pegged?
I'm very impressed you really did read the book. Yeah, I did. I think the book actually is almost prescient because I had not heard Peter Strzok, nor did anyone, in the general public here until he testified last Thursday. The guy was smug, arrogant, condescending, defiant, unapologetic, all of the things that you would expect based on the emails with his lover, Lisa Page. But the interesting part of it all is he said, well, it's like one of those, don't believe your lying eyes. I said that the guy would destabilize the country. I said we'll have to stop him. And I talked about an insurance policy, which we now know is the Russia collusion in the event he was elected. But don't believe anything I said. It was late. It appears that his girlfriend, Lisa Page, now testifying behind closed doors, is taking him on with respect to what his intent was. And look, I've worked with FBI agents. I've worked with police my whole life. I had an office with 50 law enforcement cops who worked with me. And I love law enforcement. I have tremendous respect. And the shame of this is that they have to hang their heads because people at the top of the FBI, McCabe, Comey, Strzok, Witwicky, Baker, all these guys were involved in an attempted coup. And, Lady Justice is supposed to be blind, but, man, they ripped those bandages off so that they could investigate this man and impeach him. And from the time Donald Trump got there was anything that he's done right to them. And I write in the book about all the good stuff. Not a single metric is worse under Donald Trump. The economy's never been better. ISIS caliphate is defeated. There's deregulation. Businesses are being expanded. Tax reform. Americans have more money in their pockets now. And they hate the man. But, anyone at the tip of the spear knows there's going to be pushback. But there isn't a better person to push back than Donald Trump.
That's for sure. And it seems like I was just saying before you came on, it seems like every time the deep state or the media sets these traps for him, eventually they fall into their own nets. We're talking with Judge Jeanine Pirro, her new book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals. Now, you mentioned, having offices next to some of these people throughout your career. Speaking of leakers, you talk about FBI director, former director James Comey. I understand you used to work close to him. Your offices were right next to each other. And tell me about Cardinal Comey. Tell me about this name, Cardinal Comey. What does that mean?
Well, I knew James Comey. I was the elected DA in Westchester County. He was United States Attorney in the Southern District at the same time, and our offices were next to each other. And I liked the guy. I thought he was smart. He was certainly charismatic. He understood the law. And but then he went to the FBI, and I got to tell you, he drifted. Or I should say, he went to Washington and he drifted because the fake investigation that he carried on, knowing what he knew as a prosecutor, with Hillary Clinton, no grand jury, no subpoenas, no search warrants. All the while, she destroys evidence, freaks it, hammers iPhones, and then makes up this investigation about Donald Trump. I mean, they call him in the FBI behind his back Cardinal Comey. I think the FBI is so great for the FBI because he's got this holier than thou. I know everything. And now he's quoting the Psalms and the Bible. Give me a break. You lied before Congress. Donald Trump didn't do anything until he fired you. He wasn't under investigation until he fired you. And you're a leaker. You've admitted you're a leaker. I mean, I could go on, but you got to get my book. Liars, leakers, and liberals.
Yeah, and it's available now, folks. So we've thrown the Amazon page up on the screen for those of you who are watching as instead of listening. Now, 3 days. I'd love to get your opinion, Judge Jeanine, on the recent news here. 3 days before President Trump and President Putin were scheduled to meet in Helsinki, you had the announcement of the 12 Russians being indicted. Now, to me, it seemed that there were some trying to stop this diplomacy or attempt at diplomacy from ever happening. And if it was going to happen, they were going to make it really, really difficult and give the media all of the fodder they needed to try to paint, this concept of collusion. I mean, do you think it's a coincidence that Mueller announced those indictments 3 days before the Helsinki meeting?
I like you. No, it's no coincidence. Of course, they decided to say we're indicting 12 Russians. Well, if you recall, they indicted 13 a few months back, having nothing to do with Donald Trump or collusion. They indicted a total of 25 Russians, or charged them, who will never be extradited, never be arrested, arraigned, tried, convicted, or sentenced. I mean, what is the point? It just keeps it in the news, and they're trying to get Donald Trump off his game. But as I say in the book, the man's a force of nature. He can walk into a den of lions and come out the winner. He has no fear. He takes incoming every day for the American people. And when you think about it, that guy could be in Scotland right now. He could have stayed in Scotland and kept playing golf. But he doesn't. He does it for us. And I'm honestly sick and tired of the attempt to destroy this man. I get politics. I've run for office 5 times. And a county judge and all that, but this is beyond the pale. They're calling for treason, sedition, because, he didn't take Putin out on stage when in truth, no one has had more severe sanctions on Russia. We're arming the Ukrainians against the Russians. Barack Obama stood and watched while the Russians annexed Crimea. And right now, what we're doing with Crimea is we're helping them to be able to, defend themselves. And the other piece on the Russia piece is that we got mass sanctions because of Crimea. We killed hundreds of Russians in Syria. And then Obama just talked about the red line. We've expelled Russians from the U.S. We're increasing missile defense in the intel community. I mean, not what you say, it's what you do.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. It's almost like they wanted a boxing match up there in that press conference, and they didn't get it. And it's quite, you mentioned treason. They're now claiming that a diplomatic meeting was treason, and I'm like, well, that's a pretty low bar. I mean, if that's the bar you're going to set, what was the Hillary Clinton Uranium One debacle? I mean, wasn't that then treason?
Oh, yeah, the sale of 20% of all uranium to the Russians was when the Clinton Foundation gets a $145 million kickback. Bill gets a quick $500 cash for a 20-minute speech in Russia. You want to talk about collusion? how about we talk about the fact that the effort on the part of Russia to access our uranium, which was all about bribery and corruption, indeed, they found Hillary Clinton. And that case is a case that was handled by Rod Rosenstein, and Rod Rosenstein is the one now heading the Russian investigation when he knows full well what happened. But he got Jeff Sessions to recuse himself, and Jeff, I haven't seen him in a while. He must be hiding in the closet somewhere. But, Jeff Sessions is not doing his job, and it's a shame because the American people are entitled to an attorney general who's doing his job and not someone who's going to take it and then recuse himself a day later.
Judge Jeanine Pirro, I so appreciate you coming on the program. It's been great to meet you. Again, your book, it's available in bookstores. It's available on Amazon. It's Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. Judge Jeanine Pirro, thank you so much for spending the morning with us.
Oh, I love spending the morning out there. I really do. And I thank you and your listeners. Have a great day.
Okay, you
Bye-bye.
too. Judge Jeanine Pirro, everybody. You can catch her weekends on Fox News, her show, her monologues. Judge Jeanine's monologues are some of the best, most passionate. And here's the thing. I understand she writes every one of those herself. Did you know that? We're going to take a break, folks. This is Conduit News Radio. I'm Paul Harrell. Back in just a moment.